When Kundalini breaches and opens certain areas of the subtle body, it literally takes concretized or solidified or crystallized. This is all a metaphor, of course. So you're not actually physical chunks of stuff in there that you're burning away. But there are parts of your personality, the energy of who you think you are, a carpenter, a mailman, a lawyer, a father, a mother, a son, whatever it happens to be, all those things that you think of as a concept of who you are and what you have to be in order to be the personality that is Tao or Joe or Francis, whatever it might be. As you begin to open up this initially potential energy that becomes kinetic, and it starts to move freely through each of those plexuses in the body, through each of those chakras, through each of the endocrine centers, through each of the nerve plexuses, all of these corresponding layers of physical and emotional and subtle self. As each of those breaks free and gets shaken up by this kinetic energy, a lot of that concretized energy, that energy that has been sort of stuck in place as a particular thought form, as a coherent sense of being, as a very basic pattern that always runs the same way, a habitual pattern, it starts to get broken free, and that energy is actually consumed as energy. Consumed as fuel, which allows for even more Kundalini flow. In doing so, it can produce dramatic internal visual experiences. And I don't mean hallucinations per se. I mean, blasts of light behind the eyes, explosions from the pineal gland where you're actually seeing, very powerful white light or red light or black light, depending on what part of the body is being opened. You may get explosions of the different phosphenes, the colors corresponding to activity in different nerve plexuses in the body. So you may see flashes of colors behind the eyes. You may see actual visions, or you may have muscle memories shaken loose from your system, where you suddenly very radically experience breaking your leg when you were skiing when you were 6 years old, or whatever it happens to be, some previous experience. Or you experience again your first instance of falling in love or orgasm or any other powerful visceral experience from your lifetime. Those are all very normal things. You're literally shaking yourself up, loosening up things that have been frozen in your personality, in your memory banks, in your brain, and in the muscle memories of your body. And those bits of frozen energy add now to the flow of energy and bliss and powerful, quote-unquote, experiences as you're going through the initial opening of each subsequent part of the body as Kundalini rises. Now, each time that something opens, you may have some period of time before you make the necessary shifts in awareness to get that energy to flow through the next plexus of your body that is connected to a different part of the brain, to a different part of your experience, to a different part of the subtle body, to a different layer of your awareness. Meaning you have a physical awareness, you have an awareness of the subtle tingling sensations in your body, you have emotional awarenesses that may shift and that you may feel differently in different parts of your body. You have cognitive awareness, beliefs, ideas. You have intuitive awareness. You have bliss awareness, which most people, unfortunately, only experience a few times in their life, but they could be experiencing it almost all the time if they just learn how to access it, because it's always there. You have experience of vast spaciousness and emptiness, the pureness of consciousness beyond this little ego personality. And most people get little glimpses of that throughout their life too. Kundalini can actually wire together all these different experiences at every subsequent part of the body along this so-called central channel, through the core of the body, up and out through the crown, and then returning back in and down again. So, it is possible, as in Dr. Morris's case, to blast through everything virtually all at once. And that can be if there are blockages or areas that aren't wired together well yet because you haven't had the opportunity to practice slowly running energy through them. It can be a traumatic experience like Dr. Morris had. Fortunately, the CAP methodology, as it now exists, has so many safeguards and so many ways of progressively opening up the body, although still quite rapidly. But we haven't had anything like that happen. A lot of people read Dr. Morris's first book, and Dr. Morris's opinion back then was that Kundalini pretty much had to be somewhat traumatic or else it wasn't Kundalini. He adjusted that idea in the last years of his life because both he and his senior students, us, me, Santiago, and his friends, Susan, other people who he worked with presenting Kundalini seminars, we all were able to successfully bring people through in a non-traumatic way. Doesn't mean that it's not still a big experience and there aren't still life-changing experiences that change your perception. But it's not something that has to be physically painful. It doesn't have to be emotionally painful. As long as you are willing to just sort of ride out the changes as they occur. For some people that's very difficult, for others it's easy. The methodology in CAP actually encourages the brain processes and bodily processes that allow you to become more friendly and flexible to change, more adaptable and able to ride out those changes successfully, both in spiritual life but also in your mundane life, so that you can go through these profound experiences in meditation and after your meditation sessions, but still, drive a car safely, still balance your checkbook, still pay the bills, still take care of the kids, etc., which is pretty important if you are leading a Western lifestyle or even an Eastern lifestyle that is anything other than ascetic. If you want to be a hermit in a cave, you don't have to maintain necessarily a balanced perspective, but if you want to take care of your family and your friends and your job and everything else and still have an expanded experience of who and what it is that you really are, and have this animating energy that gives you a connectedness and a instant fluidity between many different states of consciousness, CAP is a wonderful way of doing it.